In today's episode, how to increase power in your Chinese electric scooter is actually pretty easy. If you've been watching this channel for a while, then you know that most of electric scooters got that kind of controller. So this is the shiny box. This one is from BuT, 60 volts, 45 amps. So you have to remove that kind of controller from your scooter and you have to open it. Actually, this one was pretty hard to open it because here was some kind of thing which just tied this controller, this board actually, to the shell. But if you will be gentle, take your time, then it will be quite possible to remove the board. So looks pretty simple. We've got simple MOSFETs. But now the question is how to increase the power. Can you see these two wires over here? You have to add a little bit solder between the pins. And it's actually it. I spoke with some guys which did that kind of modification and their scooter is still working perfect and they feel more power. So you have to add just a little bit solder between the pins. If you will add too much, then the controller will just fry. So what could go wrong actually, what could go right? The scooter will survive and the controller will not melt. But if you will add too much solder over here, then those MOSFETs will just overheat and literally burn. Maybe the whole controller will just burn. So be careful. I do recommend to increase temperature to around 380 degrees Celsius because this part can easily spit out the heat and we have to heat it up quite badly actually. So maybe I will even set like 390 or 400, we'll see. It's quite hard to make video and do this mod because I have to place board like this to record video, so I can see much, but I hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I added a little bit and for now I think this is it. So here you can see the stock solder on the wires and my solder. I think I even added a little bit too much for the first time because it's like much more than over here. But it's worth to test if this controller will survive that kind of amount of the solder between those wires. But this is not end of the story yet, bros. So I showed you how to increase the power. Now you can expect that the MOSFETs will heat up more and faster. So you have to add some good quality thermal pads over and under the silver box to split out the heat around the frame. Nothing new. But electronic stuff is like domino. If you will change one thing, then also you have to be sure that all other things will fit. And now you have to consider that through those motor cables will go much bigger current than before. And actually those cables from the controller are big and delicious. Actually, those are like 10 AVG and covered by silicone. So those are really nice quality. They will not heat up so fast. But cables from the motor are usually covered by simple PVC and are thinner, so they heat up more. And actually, between the controller and the motor, we've got this yellow box, which is, I think, the worst idea I have ever seen, because in this box we've got this space, this point where we connecting cables from the controller and the motor, and actually this silver thing which you can see over here is heating up so fast that the cable from the motor, so this thinner one, just melt into this connector, which you can see over here. Yeah, it was cable from the motor. So if you will increase power from the controller, then also you have to change this yellow box to something more legit which will handle the power. And for this instant, I recommend these BuT connectors. So these ones are 8 millimeters in the diameter, so this one can handle easily over 100 amps, like easily. This is like overkill, but I would recommend something like 6 millimeters BuT, so something like this. So let's change it. Exactly this spot over here. So here we got the nut and the screw, which is connecting those two cables together. So this cable is going from the controller and this one is going to the motor. this spot got quite huge resistance, so it heat up rapidly, and as you saw, the wire from the motor actually, which is a little bit thinner, just melt into this white connector. That's why I recommend to change that kind of stuff. Also, if you will remove this yellow box, you will have more space inside. So far, I can see only positive things. Well, if you would like to ask, is it possible to install some cheaper, smaller bullet connector? I tested smaller 4mm, but as you see on the pictures, they didn't survive, so I recommend at least 6.5mm. All links in the description. Quite important thing before you start to disconnecting all those wires, make a photo, because front motor got arranged cables like this. So as you can see, green is going into the blue, blue into the green, and yellow to yellow. For the rear motor, in my case, we've got green green, blue blue, and yellow yellow. So just make picture of those wires. It's quite important, otherwise your motors will not work. Check this one out. This is really a silly idea, because this spot over here, it's super thin, and because of it, it cannot pass through some high current, so it heat up so fast. Just use pillars, bang, next one. Okay, that's it, thank you, see you in next one.
Jesus Christ.
Now we have to peel a little bit this outer shell of the wire. I recommend to do something like 4 or 5mm, and it will do the job. You can use again some simple peelers. Those wires are really bad quality. This is not pure copper inside, it's like some kind of metal, because as you can see it's silver and it feels very rigid. So no worries, the peelers will not damage these inner wires. Set some higher temperature around 390 or 400 degrees. And the real question, do you need to disconnect battery? If you are experienced user, then you don't need to disconnect the battery, because through those wires isn't going any current, as you can see, any voltage. But if you are newbie, for your own safety, I would recommend to disconnect the battery. Because if some solder or some wire will connect one of those red cables over here, then you can have some fire on board. Now heat up the connector. You have to see that the solder ion inside is liquid. Just place inside the wire. Heat up even a little bit more. And this is actually it. So it was pretty simple, isn't it? Shit. No. Hot. When you finish, it should look more or less like this. Of course, I added shrink tube on every single bullet connector. Actually, I recommend to add second one for safety reason. So as you can see, here I got one shrink tube, and here is also one. And here is the second one. Just do it like this and like this. Yeah, now it's even safer than before. Actually, everything is safer than this yellow box over here. Because if you will push your scooter to the limit, then sooner or later the connectors will burn, as you saw. And please bear in mind that in all those Chinese powerful scooters, we've got powerful controllers, like in my TI-30, 45 amps per motor. So through this thin wire is going lots of current. Also, we've got some big batteries, like in my TI-30, 60 volts, almost 40 amps, and really don't want to see any melting cables inside. So now we have to test this beast. In next episode I will go to super old forest. There is still snow, it will be lots of mud, and I will push this scooter to the limit, so hopefully cables will not melt, but we will see. And I know that you are waiting for episodes when I will change these big controllers to newest FlipSky 7550. This episode will be done in next 2-3 weeks. So, see you in next one. going. Amazing. Where I go now? Let's go forward. It looks like someone can crash. Let's go this way. Whoa, 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 whoa. A little bit of the ice and mud.